Okay, so let's set the scene. It's 1973. The world is all about these giant mainframe computers and stacks of punch cards. And right then, a brand new kind of crime pops into existence, one that, would pretty much take over the headlines for the next 50 years. We're going to go way back to the very dawn of computer crime.
So, when I say the world's first computer crime, what pops into your head? Come on, be honest. Is it some brilliant lone wolf programmer, right? Huddled over a keyboard in a dark room, totally outsmarting this huge faceless corporation? Yeah, for a lot of us, that's the image that sticks. It's the classic archetype of the digital thief.
And the legend, the one you always hear, goes something like this. A programmer, super smart, notices this tiny little flaw in his bank's system. See, every time interest gets calculated, these microscopic fractions of a cent, they just get rounded off, tossed aside. And he thinks, wait a minute. He realizes he can write just a little bit of code to sweep up all those digital scraps.
I mean, the elegance of it is just perfect. It's what makes the story so awesome. You could almost call it a victimless crime, right? There are no alarms blaring, no vaults being cracked open, just a few quiet lines of code siphoning off what's basically digital dust. But over millions and millions of transactions, that dust, it turns into a serious fortune. It's the perfect high-tech heist.
Okay, so it's a fantastic story. A total legend in cybersecurity circles, for sure. But is that how it really went down? Was this slick fractional cent heist the actual true story of how computer crime kicked off? Well, let's just say the historical record tells a slightly different and frankly a much weirder tale.
All right, so the real story, the one that actually put computer crime on the map back in '73, it had nothing to do with a genius programmer. Nope. It was all about a bank teller in New York City, a guy named Roswell Stephan.
And get this, Stephan managed to steal an insane amount of money for the time. Over 3 years, he funneled away, wait for it, up to $2 million from his employer, the Union Dime Savings Bank. When this story broke, you can bet the media went absolutely nuts. And this is where things get really interesting, because you see this huge gap between what people thought was happening and what actually was. The headlines were screaming about this new era of digital masterminds, these computer wizards outsmarting the system. But the truth? Oh, the truth was so much more analog. Stephan's crime wasn't about code at all. It was basically arts and crafts with a side of theft.
Yeah, you heard that right. The computer wasn't the weapon, it was just the printer. It spit out the records that Stephan would then doctor, by hand. We're talking, he literally used scissors and paste to alter the transaction logs. The only reason the whole scheme worked was because of a massive failure in, basic physical security. A coworker just gave him the vault combination. So it was a computer-assisted crime, sure, but it was a long, long way from being a cyber heist.
But hold on, because 1973 wasn't done yet. While the media was freaking out about Roswell Stephan's low-tech scam, something way, way bigger and far more sophisticated was about to completely implode. This, my friends, was the equity funding scandal. So, the heart of this whole thing, the creation of 64,000 completely fake people. No, you didn't mishear that. 64,000 phantom identities, enough to fill a small city all living inside a mainframe computer.
And why create an entire fake city of people? To generate $2 billion in fake assets. This wasn't just a crime. It was one of the biggest, most audacious corporate frauds in American history. Period.
Okay, so this was a conspiracy on a scale that's just hard to wrap your head around. For almost a decade, about 100 employees were in on it. They used the company's mainframe to just invent fake life insurance policies out of thin air. Then they'd sell these phantom policies to other companies for real cold, hard cash. But the real genius, and I use that term loosely, was how they kept the scam going. When a premium was due on a fake policy, they just kill off one of their fake people, collect the death benefits, and use that money to pay for the other fake policies. It was a digital Ponzi scheme, and it only fell apart when a whistleblower finally, bravely, exposed the whole ridiculous charade.
So let's step back. In this one single year, 1973, we get 3 completely different pictures of what computer crime could be. You've got the myth, you've got the manual, hands-on fraud, and you've got this massive corporate conspiracy. So let's actually break down these 3 blueprints.
And when you lay them out side by side like this, the differences are just glaring, aren't they? You've got the mythical programmer, super high-tech, but actually pretty small scale. Then there's our guy Roswell Stephan, incredibly low-tech, relying on physical tricks for a pretty decent-sized haul. And then equity funding, high sophistication, totally mainframe-driven, and on a scale that's almost unimaginable. It just goes to show you, right? From the very beginning, computer crime was never just one thing. It was this whole spectrum of activity.
So, what's the big takeaway here? What's the legacy of 1973? Well, these events were so much more than just shocking headlines. They were a massive wake-up call. This was the true dawn of cybersecurity as we know it.
You know, before we had terms like cybercrime or IT crime, people called it DP crime. It stood for data processing crime. And that's the language that was born in 1973, as all these experts and law enforcement folks were scrambling to get a handle on this brand new kind of threat.
Because what both of these cases did, the super low-tech Stephan one and the wildly high-tech equity funding scandal, was they ripped the curtain back. They showed everyone just how vulnerable these new digital systems really were. For the very first time, people started asking the really important questions. Hey, how do we actually secure these machines? And how do we spot fraud when it's happening inside the code itself?
And you know what? Those conversations actually led to real tangible change. This was the starting gun for modern computer security audits, for fraud detection software. And, maybe most importantly, these super high-profile cases made it painfully obvious that the old laws were completely useless in this new world. They created the political push that was needed for future legislation, directly paving the way for landmark laws like the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act of 1986. And that kind of brings us full circle to one last kind of provocative thought. It's been over 50 years since all this went down. Our technology is, it's exponentially more powerful. But the fundamental challenges, human greed, systemic vulnerabilities, that huge gap between what we think is happening and what's really happening, those things are still with us. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Have we truly learned the lessons that 1973 tried to teach us?